question, no, I'll not talk about 5G. I think we heard enough about 5G. I think we created lots of experts in this room the whole day, so that's not my focus. So what I will talk today about is really what's happening on the telco sector altogether, recent trends, key trends, how it impacts the service providers and underlying infrastructure operators, and what it means going forward. To start with, my name is Bora Varliyagci, as Dudu introduced me. My company is called Digitalthings, and we are a strategy and investment-focused advisory firm. We work closely with investors, analyzing the investment requirements, developing strategies, and advising the transactions. On the operator side or service provider side, we do help them develop strategies, business plans, and also provide interim management services time to time. To start with, what's happening in terms of telcos, in terms of traditional revenues today. If you look into traditional data and voice type of revenues, we are seeing a growing pressure on those revenues despite the fact that there is significant growth in terms of the unique subscribers on the continent as well. So let's take a bit of deeper dive over here. In terms of data and voice, I mean, from a voice point of view, we have seen around 15 to 20% compound annual decline. And that is on the top line really being compensated by the data. But if you look into the effective rate per megabyte point of view, data prices have been coming down quite drastically as well. In terms of unique subscriber growth, we are still experiencing a significant growth over there indeed, about 4.3% compound annual growth in sub-Saharan Africa. The fact that we have still half of the population is not connected is really driving that growth. But against that 4.3%, looking into traditional revenues, we see definitely a big decline from 6% compound annual within the last 2 years to 2%. So what it means is your revenues are growing much slower than your subscribers. Effectively, that means your revenue per subscriber is really declining. So there is definitely this pressure. However, on cost side, nothing changes. You still keep on investing on CapEx, and approximately $8 billion a year CapEx spent by telcos in sub-Saharan Africa, and this is expected to continue for quite a while, to indeed feed this growing data pipe and developing this data pipe. So that is really going to put a bit more pressure because your production cost per subscriber is growing. So what that means is your margins are really challenged. So there's nothing new about that probably. But what's interesting at the same time is you are keep on spending to grow your network and capacity, yet your effective price is coming down, right? So looking into some of the neighboring countries of South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, Mozambique, we have seen a drastic drop in terms of cent per megabyte on a 1 gig pack. And over here, South Africa, as you can see, is still a bit high. Probably if we were to extend it to Q3 and Q4 on 2019, we would also see quite a bit of decline. If you have, followed the news on MTN and Vodacom, the telecoms new pricing, both mobile and fixed wireless point of view, we are seeing today on certain packages less than 1 rand cent per megabyte type of pricing, which is quite interesting. And what it means, though, is it is going to have impact in terms of some of the fixed wireless offerings, in terms of WISPs and in terms of fiber-to-home players. The reason for that is the existing LTE deployments, because most of the operators in countries like South Africa, we have seen the 90% population coverage through LTE networks. However, we look into the subscriber profile as of 2019, we have less than 20% of the subscribers on 4G networks. So what it means is you have deployed this CapEx, you have spent the money. However, your capacity is not fulfilled to an optimum level. you may have congested area, but for the rest of the network, you have that sunk cost basically and idle capacity. So what you want to do is monetize it, right? So you therefore, dump the prices. That's what's happening at the moment. And within the last 2-3 weeks, MTN has launched their aggressive fixed wireless LTE plans. Same true with Rain. Strategically, Telcom also follow through. And Telcom point of view, even mobile data pricing at the moment is really coming down quite drastically. So all these MNOs trying to maximize the return on their sunk costs basically is really driving that. So what it means for a fiber to home operator or what it means for a wireless internet service provider, you really need to be careful in the medium term to make sure your at least new investments are really considerate, because this is likely to continue for at least few years until we have seen the capacity on the 4G networks are coming to fulfillment levels. Then what is happening though on service provider space is quite interesting, because traditionally we used to call fixed service providers or mobile service providers by technology. And as time goes by, we have seen the convergence of this, right? Then we start to call them communication service providers. And now we are talking about digital service providers. So what it means, why this is happening? Because if I am not making money by selling data and voice, I need to sell something else to you to keep my revenue going forward. So that's where the digital service provider concept comes in. And what it is traditional telco had 3 key pillars in the business model. One of them was infrastructure ownership, because a CapEx intensive business, if I spend a CapEx, it's a large investment, it is very difficult for second, third, maybe the fourth and fifth will not happen. So it is a CapEx-driven access to funding is really one of the key pillars in a traditional telco. The second thing is, if you think about earlier, evolving networks point of view, it requires quite a deep understanding of engineering and planning and development and running of these networks. So it required quite a lot of skills. For a competitor, it would be difficult to duplicate. And then they own the customer relationship. They had a direct relationship with both consumers as well as enterprise clients. Now, as they are challenged, as the times are changing, infrastructure point of view, we have seen second or third operator also coming and duplicating the infrastructure. We have seen development of independent fiber operators. Then it really created the need to focus on the service investment, really drive them to get rid of this infrastructure where it is no more a competitive advantage. So it depends on the market, because certain markets still really runs on that infrastructure-based competition. But that is gone. On the engineering point of view, as the networks are getting virtualized, you don't necessarily need to have that big and large engineering teams. Most of those services comes on the cloud as an outsourced service. Hence, you are left with customer relationship. But over there also you are very much threatened by OTTs, because they understand the client needs and they are more creative in getting those services. I'm talking about your WhatsApps and all those voice services, entertainment services over there. So the digital service provider is a telco basically focusing particularly on customer relationships and trying to sell more and more services to the existing customer base. So what are those services? Those services are on the consumer space, really all entertainment and all payment and financial services, as well as e-commerce services. On enterprise space, these are the services in terms of connectivity, network as a service, IT and cloud services. On industry space, IoT services, dedicated, networks. It can be 5G, but it can be all other data brokering and analytics. There are so many services that these providers are now merging on to provide. So it is no more about data and voice. It's all about what else I can sell to my existing client base. So, and this is also a changing dynamic because no one organization can provide these services alone. This is all of a partnership environment. Some of the operators in the past tried developing their own entertainment, video, or music services, different level of outcomes in terms of success. But recently what we see is there's definitely a partnership between OTTs and telcos going on to provide all these services. So from this large technocrat organization, you are becoming more sales and marketing type of organization who is managing partnerships. So it is quite a different mindset, quite a different organization, and quite different infrastructure and operational requirements. And is it really happening? So if we look into the US market, for example, AT&T's website, what you see is they are selling your home security services. They are selling entertainment services. I mean, all the when you get an entertainment package, which comes with all your entertainment channels, Spotify subscription, and it comes with also unlimited data and unlimited voice. So, but it is not the package is not about data or voice, and they are selling car Wi-Fi and telematics services, and to the businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, they are selling website and marketing services, they are selling IT support services, they are selling security services, and larger enterprises, they are selling private networks, IoT services, cloud services, again, outsource IT management services. This is all about a service game. There is nothing about data and voice anymore. So is it applicable to our market in sub-Saharan Africa? I mean, some of the players, I picked Vodacom, it applies to some other players as well. But looking into their focus and their services, definitely their consumer services today includes financial and digital services, entertainment services, and on the enterprise space, there is definitely a big focus in terms of digital IT and digital enterprise services. And also, I mean, if you look deep into this organization's KPIs, they are very consciously driving the contribution of digital services to the revenue on executive KPI level. And as I said, I mean, this game is really about changing the business model, changing your underlying IT systems, and out of 10 billion capex investment of Vodacom last year, 20% of it was IT infrastructure, enabling this shift from the traditional telco to digital telco. And some of the initial areas where this diversification from a revenue point of view is happening on the telco space is really mobile money. It's been a success story in Africa, right? And we have at the moment about 400 million mobile money subscriptions, which with over 130 mobile money services, which represents more than 60% of adult population on this continent. So definitely there is a big drive in terms of mobile money and contribution to the revenue over there. And at the moment, I mean, we have also seen some of the interoperability drives between the operators, like between MTN and Orange, which is called Mobali. So now the whole game is really about integrating these mobile money services between the operators and different service providers. The second area that they are looking at is e-commerce. Again, I mean, this is an area which has been growing on the continent, almost from $16 billion revenues in 2017 to about 29-30 billion in 2024. So there's a major growth in this area. And earlier this year in April, we have seen the listing of Jumia, which is an MTN-backed e-commerce service, almost got the $1 billion valuation at the beginning, then trying to stabilize at the moment up and down, but it was a successful IPO. And on the back of that, we have seen this expansion of these services with many other providers, and mostly like Masoko, which is the Safaricom's platform. I mean, these are the areas that traditional operators are diversifying their revenue sources. And finally, the fintech area. Again, this is an area where we have seen quite a lot of growth in terms of investment. Investment is coming from a small base though, but almost $360 million investment in 2018. And key areas of focus over there is really lending, payment, and insurance solutions, taking an advantage of mobile money deployments in early stages. So these are the three key differentiation in terms of financial services the operators are moving into. Though, I mean, still probably contribution point of view, we are on early stages because most of these digital services contributes less than 5% of the total revenue on operators. So it is a developing area. And following that, the entertainment probably is the second focus area of diversification for the operators. So what does it mean for Infracosa? I mean, operators are moving into this service space, and they are, picking the fight to diversify and kind of retain their client base against OTTs. And Infracosa have been mostly on simple operations, more real estate type infrastructure. If you think about a tower infrastructure or fiber infrastructure, but there is a networking element in between now, where the gap is started to occur. So somebody needs to fulfill that. So either the OTT's point of view, I mean, they are looking into that area definitely. And if you look into cloud service providers such as Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, these guys are really, having a long-term strategy in terms of where they want to go to, right? And if, in terms of infrastructure, they are investing massively. If you look into Google Cloud, they are already at 130 plus locations in the world. Their submarine investments have been growing, over 14 submarine systems over there. And they have also announced their Equiano submarine cable project, which will land from Portugal to South Africa next year, to 2021. And looking into the scale of investment over here, they have spent about $47 billion on infrastructure, which is, to put into context, if whole operators in sub-Saharan Africa spending $8 billion a year, this is almost equivalent of 6 years of investment of all the operators that they spend in 2 years. And similar to that, we have seen Microsoft Azure. I mean, again, similar to Google, massive infrastructure investment, data centers, and long-haul fiber networks in particular. They have more than 70,000 miles, over 100,000 kilometers of fiber reach. They have data centers over 140 countries. And similar to that, Amazon is also driving this infrastructure investment. And we know that they'll be launching the availability zone in South Africa early next year as well. So this is interesting, but where it gets more interesting is, what's the next step? So they are already getting to the continents and countries through data centers. So what if they were to come into last mile as well? So they are actively looking into getting into 5G access environment in particular. And these are some of the recent articles out there in media. Amazon's interest in particular in the US and Germany, their biggest two markets in terms of consideration in getting into 5G networks, 5G access networks. Same considerations on the Google point of view as well. So they have already disrupted on the service side. Now they are looking into disruption on the infrastructure side. So if they were to get into that space, then again, from an Infraco point of view, there are a few considerations, because that networking and infrastructure layer either needs to get much closer together, or there could be an opportunity to partner with these OTTs to enable their access kind of reach going forward as well. So, I mean, if you look into that, I mean, as network operators moving from traditional infra space to networking platform communication service providers, and from there on, they are moving into digital service, becoming a digital service provider, hence all underlying infrastructure needs to come together and probably that fulfill the digital infraco gap. And is it happening? I mean, just to look around and what's happening in this space, few examples, again, within last year. We have seen Arqiva and CityFibre in the UK. They have developed a pilot for 5G ready small cells. So a tower operator and fiber operator cooperating to develop a 5G infrastructure. And another player from the US market, Crown Castle, is a tower player. And looking into their revenue split, almost half of their revenues are coming from fiber and small cell solutions rather than traditional tower services. So there's definitely an active shift from Infraco players as well. Probably a bit less strategic planning on our side because we are still looking into the land grab and what we do with our deployments. That's good in the short term, but the key messages I think that is coming out of here is we need to be really cautious in terms of where we want to end up in 5 years as an Infraco player. Because either we have in the short and medium term the risk of this mobile network capacity, which is being dumped because idle capacity over there that is being utilized by the operators to generate some revenues. So it may impact on some of the, especially lower end consumer point of view, it can definitely impact because the pricing is much more attractive. And in the long run, then as an Infraco, there should be a decision whether I will evolve into more integrated player, whether I will evolve into the service layer, or whether I will cooperate with these OTTs who are coming closer and closer. But this strategic planning needs to start now because in 3 years' time, it will be a very difficult space for Infraco player to, especially, most of these projects are, project finance and there are debt commitments to serve. It will be a very, very difficult situation if they do not plan or you do not plan what's the next step. So with that said, I'll conclude over here and happy to take any questions you may have.